Media, a global voice for humanity.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back. It is exactly 9:18 a.m. This is News and Views with me, Julie Ali, right here on Salam Media. And next we are going to be talking with Eskom Chief Nuclear Officer Riedewaan Bakardien. And this has to do with the Koeberg shutdown. Obviously, that kind of begs the question, does this mean higher stage, whatever stage, load shedding in the country? How long is it going to last? What exactly is going on with these shutdowns? Is it about maintenance? And what is nuclear power all about? What about our environment? So these are all of the questions we are putting to, obviously, our guest, Riedewaan Bakardien. As I've said, he is the Chief Nuclear Officer at Eskom. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program, and lovely to have you on air.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Should we be worried as South Africa because we're hearing about the shutdown of the nuclear power station at Koeberg? We're hearing about 2 units that's going to be going down, one after the other for a couple of months at a time. What does it mean to us as South Africans in terms of load shedding and after the maintenance, because that's what I imagine is happening here, that we probably have, inshallah, uninterrupted power supplies going forward?
So yes, Koeberg, shukran, Julie. Koeberg is the only nuclear power station in South Africa and Africa for that matter. It produces a total of 1,840 megawatts onto the grid, and there's 2 units, each of them being 920 megawatts that it produces, and that's as part of Eskom's total capacity of over 50,000 megawatts. So it's a relatively small part. So, however, if one looks at the demand that we normally have in the country, around 30,000 megawatts, it is important that we keep that available. And what is good about the Koeberg nuclear power station is the reliability is normally very good. So it typically, when you've got your reactors online, they tend to be reliable and they will stay online with a high degree of confidence. For example, the unit we just shut down overnight, Unit 2 at Koeberg, which produces 920 megawatts. It's been online for the last 452 days since its previous outage. And the reason why we do the outage is to replace the fuel. We cannot do it online. We have to shut down at some point. So like your car, you have to stop it and then put in petrol or diesel. For the nuclear reactor, you have to stop it, switch it off like Koeberg, and then put in new fuel and then start up again. While doing that, we also will do some additional maintenance, and that's some of what we can talk about. However, the question around load shedding, just to put people's minds at ease, is that we've been planning for this in Eskom to ensure that when we do take these units off, that there are other units available. So maintenance has been done over the last few months on some of the coal stations. Those are now back, and that gives you the space to be able to take Koeberg off without having to then shed load. The only challenge or risk might be that if we have an unexpected amount of breakdowns at some of the stations, that could then we could put the grid under strain. But the intent and the plan is and we've got a good plan which shows that we can manage through the year with the 2 Koeberg units coming off one after the other.
Okay, I'm not a nuclear officer or know very much about these technological advances that's going on around our country. But with something like this happening at Koeberg, are there any impacts, for example, at Medupi or other power stations, or do they work totally independently and have no impacts on either one or the other?
So we all feed electricity into a supply system, into a pool of electricity. Koeberg from the Western Cape, we produce electricity, and Most of that electricity does end up being used in the Western Cape, but it is completely interconnected. So what we'd find when you shut one Koeberg unit off, or even if both were off, we'd still be able to get electricity coming down from the northern parts of the country, in Mpumalanga area where most of our coal stations are, and from everywhere else that we put electricity into the grid, which includes now renewables, and that electricity gets sent down to the Western Cape. Or similarly, from the Western Cape, we would send up to the rest of the country. So it all feeds in, but we don't really depend on each other. If Koeberg is doing something, it doesn't impact on Medupi or Kusile or any of the other coal stations or other stations in Eskom.
Because as you know,
it doesn't matter.
we've had endless problems from Kusile and Medupi, as you are well aware. Um, Anti-nuclear activists have expressed concern that Eskom will cut corners on 49 billion rand maintenance program to extend the life of the Koeberg nuclear power station by some 20 years. Is that correct? And is that positive for us as a country?
So the money we're putting into and I don't know where people have all found these numbers, but Eskom did its own business case in 2010 to look at the impact of the investment to ensure that we can extend the life of the plant, because Koeberg's been running for the last 37 years today, and at 40 years it will be shut down, or we need to extend the life of the plant. So we're working on, and we've made the decision that it will be safe and affordable to invest the money into upgrading or refurbishing the plant to be able to run for another 20 years until 2045. What we do need for that, though, is there's some plant changes required. So things like the steam generator replacement that we're talking about, or the reactor pressure vessel head replacement, and some other upgrades and refurbishments we've done. That needs to be completed, as well as the studies that we provide to the National Nuclear Regulator, who keeps an eye over everything we do, and they will ultimately issue us with the approval to continue for another 20 years. They will engage the public in that process to ensure everything is safe. And safety is really the overriding priority at Koeberg. We train our operators, our maintainers, our engineers in terms of nuclear and nuclear safety. We expect very high standards in terms of the performance, adherence to procedures, to ensure that the plant remains safe. And we expect also high levels of reliability. And we do get high levels of reliability through a very rigorous maintenance program. Just a little bit, Julie, on the work we're doing this outage and why it's so significant. Normally we'll take about, let's say, 40 to maybe 90 days for an outage to do the normal refueling and maintenance. This outage is over 5 months, though, each of them. And that is because we are doing the steam generator replacements. Those components are over 380 tons each, 3 of them, and we're replacing those. So it comes at quite a significant cost also, and that's part of the investment. So we've looked at the money we're spending on this, on the project. It's more like 20 billion, and we've done the calculations to confirm that it makes absolute business sense. And really, it's a no-brainer. You're not going to get cheaper power than through the extension of the life of Koeberg for the foreseeable future.
Okay, let's look at the both. You currently working on the one plant, unit 2, I imagine, and then you're going to go after 5 months. You're going to tackle unit 1, and that also means that the capacity, the life capacity of these units will be extended by a further 20 years each. What happens after the 20 years? And in terms of renewable energy, environmentalists have been long talking about all of these issues. Is Eskom thinking about renewable energy going down that route? And what about a lot of people wanting to go off the grid? In the past, or possibly even currently, they're being penalized for going off the grid. What is the plan as far as that is concerned? People, going the big drive by Eskom to promote solar heating for households, etc. That's going to take a huge strain off Eskom, is it not?
So certainly all of these things need to work together. And if individuals invest at home in things like solar heating for their geysers, it does take a strain off the grid. What it also does is, though, and it uses solar, which is renewable, and it reduces the overall carbon emissions. However, our assessment and the energy mix for the future is really determined by government through an integrated resource plan. Eskom has predominantly been supporting that through the base load that we provide, the coal stations, nuclear stations, gas stations as well. However, where possible, we also see ourselves getting involved in the future mix as a company to ensure that we have a sustainable supply of electricity into the future. And what is important to note is that renewables will be part of the mix going forward, but we see this as being a mix of baseload and renewables, and we will take direction from government in terms of the requirements. And if one looks at the integrated resource plan at present, it talks to an additional 20 years of nuclear for Koeberg, and then also lots of renewables coming online, as well as the beyond 2030, there is talk now, and where government is working on further nuclear beyond Koeberg as well.
And what does that look like beyond 2030?
Well, that's the what's in the integrated resource plan. So it's a combination of some coal with the Medupi and Kusile. We'll see, obviously, some of the coal stations continue, some will be decommissioned, an increasing reliance on renewables. And then also now the focus on beyond 2030 on some nuclear. And the exact quantum of that, government talks to 2,500 megawatts, and they have started a process to procure that to come online in the period post 2030.
Riedewaan, a little while ago, it could have been a year or two ago, government was looking at, and particularly I think it was Riedewaan Bakardien that was involved in that deal. They were looking at these ships that, the nuclear power ships. I think they were Turkish-Russian partnership. They were coming into South Africa to supply power to us as South Africa because we were in dire straits at that time as far as our power supply was concerned. That obviously didn't happen because there was a huge outcry from taxpayers and the public. Was that a good deal? Do you think that would have enhanced power in South Africa, or would that have kind of almost gone against the grain as far as Eskom is concerned?
Yeah, so Julie, maybe on this one, I'd rather one of my colleagues who was involved in that talk to that, because I know there was a lot of discussion about it. I'm not too close to that particular project and why it went the way that it did. However, it would probably be better to talk to one of my Eskom colleagues, and certainly we can line you up with someone. I don't want to overstep my mark. I'm the nuclear guy.
Sure. No worries. I hear you loudly and clearly. Okay, let's wrap up then. Can you safely say that it will be 10 months in total, starting over the weekend, 10 months in total to refurbish these units at Koeberg, that there is no worries about interrupted power supplies, etc., that people can go about their business comforted in the knowledge that businesses, homes, hospitals, etc., will have their adequate supply of electricity and energy to go about business as usual?
Yeah, so it's again probably something that Sikonati, our spokesperson, would probably be better qualified to talk to. But what I can say is that we've made the plans to ensure that with Koeberg coming off, it does not place in the grid in any jeopardy. So Unit 2 comes off now from January until June, and then Unit 1 from October to early in 2023. And that's really to avoid the winter periods where most of the demand is. But we cannot absolutely say that there is no threat. I think the grid or the energy supply remains under may remain under some strain. However, the plans are there to ensure that we do not impact. What does, though, create some difficulty is when we do have high levels of unexpected breakdowns, which we have seen in 2021. And we may see some of that again. That then puts you in a situation where there could be an impact. So we cannot guarantee, but we are doing everything to ensure that with the Koeberg outages that there is no impact. But yeah, taking these units off does place some grid some strain on the grid. However, we have put the plans in place to ensure that we manage.
Well, let's hope and pray it all goes well, inshallah. If there are any hiccups, be certain we will be talking to you to answer to us. But wonderful talking to you, and inshallah it goes well. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Walaikum salam.
That was Eskom's Chief Nuclear Officer, Riedewaan Bakardien, talking to us about Koeberg's shutdown. The one unit was shut down over the weekend. It's going to be off for the next 5 months for much needed refueling and maintenance. And once Unit 2 comes back on stream, they'll be shutting down Unit 1 to do all of the necessary upgrades, maintenance, and refueling. And that obviously is at Koeberg. Riedewaan has assured us that it won't and has no direct link or impact with Kusile or Medupi, where upcountry is dependent for their power supplies. Still to come on the show, we are going to be talking to Dr. Abdul Qadir Al Junaid about the Yemeni situation. They are in crisis as far as aid is concerned, and let's try and unpack that issue. 9:35 exactly on News and Views right here at Salam Media.